Well, nowadays you got to have that because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it.
It's interesting with Longford because I had Oran Kenny speaking to Oran Kenny recently, their corner forwards, and he was saying their aim was to get up to Division 2 despite how the league might look. They just survived after beating Tipperary, but from what I was hearing anyway, they were the much better side over Tipperary. And you know, the qualifier chat we were just having just there, that'll affect Longford more because they seem to excel in the qualifiers once they get there, and they'll be excelling for 2022, no doubt, but they should be Carlow. And I actually think, considering Meath's form in the Division 2, I think they've gone backwards ever since that slaughtering they got in the Leinster final last year. I think that this is an opportunity for Longford to get into another Leinster semi-final. And considering the draw is going to be made, I actually don't know what the reasoning for this is, but the draw will be made after the quarterfinals are completed. If they face someone like Westmeath or Laois, who weren't that great in Division 2, Westmeath were unlucky, Laois were, they weren't great whatsoever. But if they face one of them in the semi-final, that's a Leinster final for Longford. They're the second smallest county in Ireland. So there's an opportunity there for even Carlow to get to a Leinster final. It'll be absolutely huge. So I think both sides will be gunning for this game, and it will be a tough one to call. I would say Longford because I think they've better players like the Oran Kennys, like Mickey Quinn, who's a brilliant, experienced player for them. And I think they'll be looking at the next game after they beat Carlow, if they beat Carlow, of course, against Meath and potentially Westmeath or Laois, and they'll say, look, lads, there's a Leinster final here. No matter if we're playing Dublin or whatever, that'll be 4 championship games for us. And that's going to be huge going into next season for the Longford lads. So imagine Longford in Leinster final. It could happen, given if the draw goes in their favour, but stranger things have happened. And I actually think, other than Dublin, the Leinster Championship is competitive, as seen in recent years. Longford beat Meath years back. So you never know. Longford could beat Meath or beat Westmeath or Laois. So it will be a tough one to call Longford, Carlow. But I think Longford will win this game, and they could fancy their chances of getting to a Leinster final, which I said would be absolutely huge for a county like Longford.
Yeah, and I think you were kind of saying there that I suppose if the Longford management were to sit down with the Longford lads and tell them, you've potentially 4 games this year, I think that's probably one of the reasons why they haven't done the semi-final draw, because if Longford if the Longford management may be seeing that they could potentially meet Dublin in a semi-final, then maybe the motivation levels wouldn't be there or something. And it's weird for the GA to almost admit that there is a problem there. But I don't know what the official reason was, to be honest. So maybe someone in the comments down below can let us know. But yeah, in terms of them going up against Meath in a Leinster quarter final, I mean, I suppose for me, there is a potential there for Longford to cause a shock, but I don't know. I feel like with the fact that it already happened a couple of years ago, that surely Meath and Andy McEntee will know going into that game that, all right, they need to right the wrong in many ways, because I don't think they've played Longford since. So I suppose there's surely Meath will be able to pull through there.
You would think so, looking at Meath's talent, like the likes of James Condon or Donald Keoghan there, but the thing is, Meath haven't really performed well since they spanked Wicklow, scoring 7 goals. Like against Kildare, they got lucky scoring 5 goals in the second half. Kildare fell apart in many ways. Then they got hammered by Dublin. And then in Division 2, they were lucky against Westmeath. Against Down, Down weren't that great, let's be honest, as I've mentioned previously in this chat. Mayo, I suppose you can't count that because they played a second team. But against Kildare, they weren't that great. And Kildare got over them quite easily, which I didn't really expect. I thought Meath would actually put more of a challenge there, but you'd think they'd learned the lessons from a few years ago after the Longford game. But then again, looking at Meath's form, Longford could easily beat them. They could easily beat them, given Meath's form in Division 2 against sides like Westmeath, who I think Westmeath are similar level in many ways to Longford. They're both Division 3 teams next season. So, look, I think Meath have the talent. There's no doubt about that. They have good young players coming through, the likes of Luke Mitchell coming through, who's a brilliant young player. But look, I actually think Longford, I genuinely believe Longford could pull a shock here against Meath, because Meath's form since the Wicklow game has been utterly horrendous in many ways, their performances anyway on the pitch. So I'd actually give Longford a chance, but maybe it could go the way of the Wicklow game last year. Meath will come out of nowhere, losing every game in Division 1 and then spanking Wicklow by 7 goals or something, and everything's back to normal again. So it could turn out two ways, but I would give Longford a huge chance of beating Meath, considering their form going into this game.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it is going to be an interesting one. I would go with Meath ultimately to get the victory there, but I suppose with Longford and the momentum, having beaten, I suppose, last year's Munster champions in Tipperary, and even put in a decent display against Cavan and Fermanagh as well. So definitely there's a chance there for Longford.